Hi guys, my name is Tim Cooley. I just want to give you a little background. I currently do deal flow for a local angel network. I've been around entrepreneurs for around the last 10 years, and I used to run a seed fund where we used to coach people on how to do short pitches. And what I want to do is help you create the most amazing 3-minute pitch deck you've ever created. It's not a lot of time, but there's a lot of things you got to keep in mind when you're developing these types of presentations that differ from when you're doing an actual 10-15 minute presentation to investors. Typically, these are competitions, pitch competitions, or local pitch competitions where there's like $5,000, $10,000, $40,000 on that line. So it's not like an investor. You don't win an investment, you just get invested in. But in a competition, you're trying to win. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. And one of those things, or a couple of these things, right? So, like I mentioned, these short pitches are not the same as a regular pitch. You're trying to get the audience and the judge approval. Many times the judges involved in these things are not investors. They're business professionals, so they may have a company or they're a banker. So you need to sound better than everybody else. They may not even have any domain expertise. And remember, you're trying to win. You're competing right now, right? There's $5,000 on the line, and you're the only one that can get it out of, let's say, 30 people. So what you want to do is you have to, in this case, you've got to keep the pitch high level. You don't have time for details. You need to focus on things that matter, and that's how you're going to make money. And that's very, very important. Do not go into the technical details. Like I mentioned, you don't have enough time. Let them ask questions later. That's when that's for. That 3 minutes afterwards to ask questions, that's when you can go into details. Do not memorize your pitch. I know you'll want to. It seems like you should. It's only 3 minutes or 5 minutes, but don't do it. It needs to be a conversation. And the way I've put together these slides will help you not have to memorize it. It'll just become a conversation. But you've got to practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice saying things different ways so that when you hit the points that you need to make, they come off really, really precise. Don't do note cards. You don't have enough time to read them. And it comes off like you don't know what you're doing. So I know you might get nervous, but really avoid doing the note cards. Your pitch should flow like a story. I mean, I know you've only got 3 minutes, but it's to still lead from one slide to the next. And fortunately, I've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs make this happen. And that's what I'm going to teach you today in this 3-minute format. I know I'm taking more than 3 minutes, but you're not allowed more than 3 minutes. The other thing, these are competitions. Usually there's money involved in an audience vote. It is your job. You are the founder of a company to rally the troops to come support you. Get 20 people. If you can't get 20 of your friends in there, think about this, right? Like, they're the ones who are trying to make sure that you're successful. So do it. Bring 20 people to this thing and, stack the ballot box. Make sure that you at least take home $500 from audience vote. That is really, really, that's your job today as the founder of this new company. Let's get started. So you've got to start off with the problem, okay? You'll see on my slides and all these, and you can get these slides. They're on my website, and we'll talk about that later, but in the upper left-hand corner is the time you have. So I've mapped this out. You've got about 30 seconds here. And you can fudge these numbers a little bit, and I'll show you areas where you can save a little bit of time, but maximum about 30 seconds here. And so you'll see on my slides in the upper left, or in the upper right, it says, I'm glad you asked. This is how we develop the story, right? So imagine you just walked up into the audience. The first question they're thinking in their brain is, what is it that you're doing? I'm glad you asked, right? So now you're going to set the stage for the problem. There's many ways of doing this, but really the best ones, and since you only have such a short amount of time, you want to tell how you came into this problem. That gets them on your team. So if you're doing something in the medical space, like my mom needs to be on dialysis, and I came into this, and I really wanted to fix that issue. Like, you've already got buy-in from everybody because they can see how you relate to the problem that you're trying to solve. You want to give the details of the size of the market, But again, you've only got 30 seconds here. So spend 20 seconds on you and the other 10 or so on the size of this problem and the market opportunity for this problem that you're solving. So you can see in the lower right hand corner this orange line. This is how the flow goes, as we talked about, right? Well, I see the problem, I see how you're involved. Well, how are you planning on solving that? And in the green, I'm glad you asked. This is another slide where you have about 30 seconds to spend on. You know, you spend the majority of this time, this 3-minute, 5-minute presentation on these two areas. They're so important, right? You want to show the problem, the solution. You want to show this to everybody in the audience. So whether that they can see the app, if touch it, they have to download it, don't do it, but demonstrate it somehow. If you've got a widget, hold it in your hand, show it to people, show it how it works. Show how it solves the problem that you just talked about. Again, you don't have that much time, but so don't do a video. I know I said you have 30 seconds and you could do a 20-second video. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You don't have enough time. What if the audio goes out or something? Like, you don't want to risk anything. Keep it all manual, everything that you can control. Many times you can't show the solution. You know, you might be, usually these competitions are an idea phase or you're early on in the competition. Do wireframes, you know, mock it up in PowerPoint or Balsamic or any of these tools that are out there so you can demonstrate what you're trying to do. Skip the login slides and all that stuff. Just go to the core of the application that you're trying to do and how that relates back to the problem. So again, you got 30 seconds. So we've talked about the problem, we talked about the solution. Now everybody in the audience, right, this is business, they want to know how you get paid. So your response, I'm glad you asked, right? That's what our slides are saying. Don't say I'm glad you asked, but you get the idea, right? These are these underlying questions that add to the flow of our story. So you tell them, my product costs 20 bucks or 50 bucks, and this is how much it costs to make. And so here's some more of the details. You know, it's getting manufactured in China or whatever. If you're doing an app, talk about the SaaS model, the licensing fees, and all that other stuff. You've got about 15 seconds on this slide. So again, don't spend too much. So these first 3 slides are the core of what you need to be talking about. So spend time on these. Make sure that everybody understands that problem, how the solution relates to the problem, and that you're able to make money off of it. Again, it's a business competition, so spend time there. So now the question is, well, what does it look like in the future, right? Well, again, I'm glad you asked. Don't spend much time. If you need more time in the presentation, this is another 15-second slide. You can cut this slide completely. In a 3-minute presentation, this slide doesn't matter. If you do have it already developed, and you should create the slide, put it in the appendix so that they can ask questions about it. And you can be like, hey, look, I'm ready for you. I have that slide for you. But if you need to save time, cut this slide from the pitch presentation, but you still need it. It should be in the appendix. So now that we've got how we've made money and what it looks like over the next year, you know, how did you get to that thing? So this is your market assessment slide. Again, you only got 15 seconds on this slide as well. So you've got these 3 areas. You have the TAM, which is your total addressable market. This is everybody that you could possibly serve. The serviceable addressable market is everyone who realistically could use it. Yeah, everyone can use your product, but there's a core group of people who probably would. And then your serviceable obtainable market, so the SOM, the one in the green, that is the people you're going after. So like this is who you're targeting straight out the gate, and that's what all you're banking on this section. And so again, you only have 15 seconds. So what you could do is say, hey, look, here's how big this market is. This is what we're focusing on. And you can see how fast that was. It was about 3 seconds, right? To get that thing. So people, again, you're just trying to get people on your team in a quick format. And so you don't have to spend a lot of time here. You will in a big pitch, but not in a 3-minute pitch. You don't have that much time. So the next question is, well, if this is such a great opportunity, who else is doing it? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is such a clean slide. You can mention some of the big players. You can show your feature sets. Your feature sets in this slide should match and represent what you talked about in that problem and in the solution. If you're adding crazy extra features here that you didn't mention earlier, don't do it. Leave them out. They're not that important. You have 15 seconds here. That's why I love a chart like this, because it's so clean. Keep in mind, usually, in some cases, judges will ask questions. You have no idea what they know. You also don't know what the audience knows. And so be honest here. Do your research on your competitors, because there will be somebody in the audience who's trying to prove you wrong. And that's never a good sign. So do your due diligence. You don't have to list everybody if there's a lot of competition, but just make sure you know them and recognize that. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't heard of that company. I'll look into it if that question ever comes up, and that's totally fine. So again, you got 15 seconds on this slide. So the question is, yeah, I see there's a market opportunity here. I see that there's, a lot of competition. It seems like you have a good product. So we need to know your traction, right? So the question is, well, how do you plan to get to these numbers that you've talked about? Well, again, I'm glad you asked. So this is where you talk about your timeline and your traction. And this is your timeline backwards. So I started this idea a month ago. I already created a wireframe. I'm talking with a company to develop it, or I've launched my alpha, or whatever. You want to just list all the things, or I've signed my first customer, all the things you've done that are key milestones that lead you up to today. And then the next question, again, you got 15 seconds here. The next question is, cool, so what's next? Well, this is where we're going. You got another 15 seconds to do this. So you start off today, and the next 6 months we're going to do this, and the next 5 months we're going to do this. The beta is going to launch. We're going to go live with 5 customers. Whatever it is that's happening in the future, just list it here. There's many ways to display this information. I like this time-lapse format. It doesn't always work for every venture. Like I said, there's many ways of doing this, but the same concepts still apply. So the next question is, well, cool. So I see your problem. I understand how your solution solves that problem. I see the size of the market and that you're capable of competing in it. I understand where you're going. Who's going to help you execute on that? And so this is your team slide. You've got 15 seconds. Just show it to people. You might want to spend a little bit more time talking about yourself. Maybe introduce the 2 co-founders, like I have a CTO. I have a marketing guy who's been in the industry for 10 years. That's it. High level. You don't go into details. Do not talk about your advisors. You can list them here, but 15 seconds goes by really quick, and a lot of people eat up their time on the team slide. And in a pitch like this, the team doesn't, it's not that they don't matter, they just want to know that you have a team. And again, let them ask questions about it later if it's that important. So now that this team's like, oh, okay, it makes sense. You got a web guy, you got all the people, you got a salesperson, you got all the people that can execute on this idea. So what do you need to make it happen? In this case, because you're usually going for a certain dollar amount, what would you do with that money? You can break this up into, if you are actually raising capital for your company at that point, you can say, hey, look, we're raising 100 grand, but with this $5,000 or with this $10,000, this is what we're going to do with it. And these relate back to that timeline that we talked about. So again, you don't have that much time here, but this is a really good slide to give yourself extra time on, because this is why you're in this competition in the first place, right? I've been a judge on these for many years, and if someone has a better use of funds, the panel usually likes that. They're like, hey, this guy actually, I don't maybe like his business model, but I really like the way that he's going to use his money, and so they get sometimes get priority. Sometimes they're like, you know what? I don't know what they're going to do with the money, but I really like this business opportunity. So you're trying to hit all of these things, keeping them excited. With this pacing, you'll keep people engaged, and it just makes it flow really good. And you'll see the last thought process from our investors down there in the orange, right? It says, Again, you're not trying to solve anything. You're not trying to do anything other than to get them interested and to keep thinking about your product or your business over everybody else that's presenting that day. And that is critical as you're doing these 3-5 minute presentations. And so I hope that's helpful. My name's Tim. If you want these slides, they're available to you on my website, timlcooley.com/pitch-deck-help. And just come get them. I'm more than happy to help. I love this space. So if there's anything I can do, please let me know. Thank you very much. And again, like I said, I hope this is helpful. Have a great day.